Okay, I think we're ready to begin. I'm going to say a prayer and turn it over to Stacy, our adult formation chair, to introduce our topic today, and and we'll go from there. I'm going to use a prayer from the service for our consecration of a church. This prayer just made me mindful of all the things that happen in the church and which the archives try to catalog. And anyway, we'll just say this prayer. Let us pray. We give you thanks, O God, for the gifts of your people, for the work of many hands, which have beautified this place and furnished it for the celebration of your holy mysteries. Accept and bless all we have done, and grant that in these earthly things we may behold the order and beauty of things heavenly, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. With that, I'll turn it over to Stacy.
Thank you, Jeff. Happy Sunday, everyone. This morning, it is my privilege to introduce to you John, Will, and Ann Cooper. John has been the archivist of St. Paul's Cathedral since September of 2005. He holds a Bachelor's of Science in Education and a Master's of Arts from Indiana University in Pennsylvania. In addition to being archivist of St. Paul's, John has been the archivist and historiographer of the Episcopal Diocese of San Diego since February of 2009. John is also an usher, lector, Eucharistic visitor, member of Listening Hearts, and occasional delegate to the Diocesan Convention. Anne is the assistant archivist, and she has always loved history. She was born in Los Angeles and raised in the San Fernando Valley. Educated at Stanford and USD, Anne began her working life in archaeology after completing a master's in anthropology. A passion for historic preservation led to a master's in history. One marriage and 2 sons later, Anne has been a teacher, researcher, museum manager, curator, and currently interprets San Diego's early history at Old Town San Diego State Historic Park. Please join me in welcoming John and Anne to the forum.
Thank you, Stacy. It's great to be here today. I'm looking forward to the time when we don't use Zoom, although this has been a very good tool for all of us. I'd like to start off with a little bit of the history of the archives, and there may be questions along the way if they pertain to a particular subject that we're discussing at the time. It's okay to ask the question, and I'll try to field those as best I can. But we'd prefer, if you can, to hold questions to the last 15 minutes, and we'll have a section on question and answer. The archives at St. Paul's got started during the time of John Chang, who was then the dean of the cathedral, and he asked Bill Kelch to set up the archive. Bill was a professional archivist, and I stand on his shoulders, and I don't mind saying so. He did a tremendous amount of work getting the archives established, and I'm just building upon what Bill has done, and with the able help of Anne, we hope to continue and take it further down the road and do even more for the archives. I should mention that right now the archives contains not only St. Paul's archives, which is organized and has a lot of work to be done, but it is organized. But the other half of the archives is holding the diocesan files, old files that will be made into an archive at some point. So there's plenty of work to do, and I rely on volunteers and especially Anne to help do that. This past couple of years, 2 years, two guys, Michael and Mitchell, helped me sort a lot of those things out. Okay, the organization of the archives, it's divided basically into 13 different sections, and different things fit into different sections. Like we have an area for just blueprints and items that are large and flat, and that's area X, we call it. And so we're reproducing all those right now and trying to get them digitized so that people who are making plans for the cathedral or the Great Hall can readily access those items. So we're just getting that started with maybe 3 drawers digitized out of 15 so far. So let's get into the archives themselves. I have a couple pictures that we want to show you, and some of these aren't actually in the archives, but they are archival materials and they're logged in as part of the hidden treasures of St. Paul's. And I should tell you today that we're going to see some of the hidden treasures, but there's many more yet to be displayed. So bear with me. Let's try this. Okay, here we go. Can everybody see that? Okay, good. Hidden treasures of St. Paul's Archive. So let's start with slide 1. This is the old St. Paul's downtown, the church interior. This is the front of the church or the chancel as it appeared in December 1932. St. Paul's was then located at 8th and C Streets. Some years later, this church was cut into 7 different sections and moved to the college area to become St. Dunstan's. Then years later, it was again moved to Lemon Grove to become St. Philip's, where it is today. So the idea of recycling and reuse started long ago at St. Paul's. I want you to note the altar rail in the center of the picture there beneath the altar. That is now in back of the organ console when Martin plays the organ. And here's the pulpit, which was built in Germany. And I don't want to attempt the name of the place where it was built, but they're known for the woodworking and their passion plays. And also, if you see the little blue arrows here, these are organ pipes from the organ that was at Old St. Paul's. These pipes came from around South America by ship before they were installed here. And I'm told by Martin that some of them are still in use today. This actual picture reads, taken, enlarged, and presented to the Young People's Service League by the sexton, Mr. Williams, for their room. 9th anniversary picture, December 1932. So that's a picture from way back when. Okay, we'll go to slide number 2. And I'm alternating with, hopefully alternating with Ann, so maybe she can narrate every other slide.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. This photograph is kind of tricky to see, but this is the first sacramental register that we have in the archives. The title page reads, Parish Register of the Church of the Holy Trinity, San Diego, California, Advent, AD 1872. And the first baptism recorded was that of Oscar Darlington Marshall, who was baptized on the 1st of October, 1872. And John, you have in brackets here Chetwood. I assume that's the rector responsible for that baptism.
Yeah, he was then the rector. And there were earlier baptisms, but they were done by people passing through or missionaries who baptized people in this area. And those were probably recorded elsewhere.
Right. And I just want to add that for historians and anyone doing research, when you have a name and a date, that's golden. That's wonderful. You can work with that. So these are the kinds of records that are very, very important to the archives.
Okay, this is old St. Paul's church interior for Easter. Look at the extensive decorations. The actual date is unknown. It's most likely older than 1932, as the eagle lectern is on the right side, and it's before the pulpit was installed, the one from Germany. If you look closely, you can see to make out a large offertory plate on the right side rear of the picture. And I believe we currently have that. It was sent down to the archives just within the last 2 years. And Jim Witt kindly polished this up and brought it back to its original brilliance. And Bob Ossie and I took a good close look at this picture with a magnifying glass, and we think we have that original plate now in the archive. So that was a good win. Okay. Next slide.
This is one of the items that came from the previous church at 8th and C Street, the baptismal font.
And many of you know this has been in different locations throughout the cathedral. It was, and it used to be at the back wall here, and was moved forward when Dean Richardson was here. This is the top or cover for the baptismal font that you just saw. And as you might imagine, it's not only beautiful, but very heavy. And taking it off and putting it back on was a rather laborious effort. And eventually, I believe people were afraid of damaging something with it, either the font or the top. And so it was relegated to the sacristy for many years. And our canon sacristan, Connie Dadman, suggested it might be placed in the archives. And over the years, the angel on the top had acquired a bit of tarnish and a bent wing. And we took it to Mr. Chigi and Son in El Cajon, who they repair many of our sacramental items. And they spruced it up and repaired it. We also had a case made to protect it when on display. And eventually we'll put this in a more prominent place, maybe when we move into the new building or something. The base for the case was made by carpenter Del Cover, who also did the woodwork for the new Bishop's Cathedral in the chancel.
Okay, this is the poor box belonging to St. Paul's. This box has been around for some time. John and I like very much the Beaux-Arts design of the metalwork on the box. And we believe this was also brought to the new St. Paul's when the congregation moved here from 8th and C Street. That's the cover of the box. You can see it's hinged there and opens up to reveal the interior.
And I should add, this was another gift from the sacristans. Connie asked that it be put down in the archives. So it's a beautiful box. Yeah, it kind of represents to me St. Paul's, because we're a very giving congregation, and we have been from the beginning. This is St. Paul's Services sign we have down in the archives. I believe this probably, I don't have this actually nailed down yet, but I believe this was actually in front of the church at 8th and C Streets. This was when Harold Robinson was the rector. And I'm sorry? Excuse me. And so it's in the archives, and I'm hoping to have it preserved a little bit better. I have a case for it, but I don't have it put in the cases yet. But there it is. I think it's very beautiful the way it is. I hope we can keep it like that. Is there a question or something about the sign?
When I was a child, it was at the corner of 5th and Nutmeg.
Okay.
You can see that the addresses for the office were on 6th Avenue there on the front.
Yeah.
Kelly.
I think it's quite a treasure, and the sign was found and donated to us, and one family was preparing for a house sale. They brought it in, or at least they told Penny about it, and I went out and picked it up. And I treasure it. It's beautiful. We're still finding treasures that this family donated to us. I'm open. When I looked in the box the other day, Penny wanted to know if we had a time capsule of any kind, and I happened to come across a brochure they had saved, which recorded what was in the time capsule that was put in the cornerstone when the church was, the cornerstone was laid in 1951. So there is actually a time capsule in there.
And speaking of that cornerstone, here we have the 1951 ceremonial trowel used to lay the cornerstone. The silver ceremonial trowel was prepared at Jessop's Jewelers for use by Bishop Bloy when the cornerstone for St. Paul's Church was placed on April 8th, 1951. We were at that time a part of the Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles. And this cornerstone does contain a time capsule, as John just mentioned. He wants to know, does anyone have any idea what is in it?
Well, maybe we can let that be a surprise when Penny reveals some of the information I gave her.
Probably a newspaper.
By the way, I gave this to the sacristans and to Connie, and she had Mary Rathburn polish it up, so it looks a lot better than it does in the picture.
I was so excited to see the article from the parish news that you gave me, John, that has the lists what's in the church, the 1951 time capsule. So now we know what to put in the 2021 capsule.
Oh, that's Harold Robinson's wedding photograph.
This is a picture frame with a photograph of Harold Robinson and his wife. I believe it was taken during their 25th anniversary.
So it was their wedding.
Pardon me? It was I'm sorry. It was given to St. Paul's by Stu and Connie Dadman.
I think that was their wedding.
This is an original PBY company brick from the foundation of Old St. Paul's. The brick was retrieved from that foundation at 8th and C Street, San Diego, California, on the 1st of August in 1948. And PBY company on the face of the brick indicates it was manufactured by the Park Brickyard Company.
And if I could add, the Park Brickyard Company in itself is a very historical company. They were only in business about 3 years, but during that time, they operated in downtown San Diego, and they made millions of bricks for many prominent buildings, one being the Horton House, and a number of other places. I believe the Grand Hotel also has some of these bricks. But this was in that trove of goodies that the people found in their garage when they were getting ready for the house sale. So you might want to check your garages and attics and see if you have anything that might lend itself to St. Paul's history. If you do happen to bring something by, please indicate who brought it by and the date, because I would like to get back and thank you for it, okay? It's always good to know what they, to find out where these things came from and the date. Okay, this is a tapestry banner that was retired to the archives after many years of service and a stain or two. but it was so beautiful in its own right, I hung it down in the archive. It represents the many banners, vestments, altar linens, frontals, and so many things that are made by the Stitchery Guild and people associated with that ministry. I'm told by Almira Fort that this was based on a Christmas card that Naomi Shukti had gotten one year. And they used it for many years, and it was often in the parade for St. George's Day, but it's since been retired to the archives, and it hangs down there on the wall, so I can look at its beauty from time to time.
And we just wanted to show you on the reverse of this banner, the people who worked on it from the Stitchery Guild went ahead and embroidered their names on a piece of felt that is there on the back. So we have Naomi Shute, Sharon Reed. Did I ruin her name? I'm sorry. Sharon Reed, Marguerite Farmer, Almira Fort, Ann Will, and Nancy Chinchor, Jim and Jane Minchinton.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I never got to meet any of those people, but there they are for us for posterity.
You may well meet Nancy Chinchor because she's still alive and well and living in Tennessee and comes to visit from time to time. And of course, Almira is still very active.
Great.
It
Thank
looks
you.
like Jane's husband, Jim, must have had a hand in maybe hanging it or something, because he was the sort of the sexton.
He was the sexton for a number of years, and I remember meeting Jim when I first started at St. Paul's, and when he was there when the columbarium was put in the back, and Jane's ashes were interred in the far left upper corner, and he would stop by just to visit from time to time. Wonderful man. Okay, St. Paul's has had many starts to do a building, and this is one of those starts. It was designed by Bissell Architects out of Los Angeles. They are a very prominent company in Southern California, and this was the model of a proposed building plan several years back. Perhaps some of you remember this. I believe Charles Hudgens was then the senior warden during the time of John Chang, and it included a bell tower and a diocesan school for ministry. I have a couple other shots of this just to show you. We have this down in the archives, and we're fortunate to have it. So here's another view of it, and you can see the school for ministry on this location. Then over here, the hope was to be able to close Nutmeg and make a little park. I don't think the city was too anxious to do that, though. So, of course, that did not happen.
Wasn't this, I just wanted to comment on that was when they were considering doing a square tower over the crossing, and I think, well, I guess the one that they had in the model that was more recent was really missions, can't remember, craftsman style with different things, but was this the original design? I thought the original design went up to a spire.
Oh, no, this is not the original design. The original design had a much taller tower.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, it's very interesting. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is of course familiar to everyone, and this is the carved end of a pew which was saved. This is the end from one of the pews designed by Howard Atwood Church Furnishings. This was the pew design selected by the cathedral architect Philip Froman. The altar in the Great Hall is also designed and produced by Howard Atwood. It was originally the side altar located at the front right side as you face the chancel before the chapel and south transept were built.
And I'm grateful for Bob Osley and the Dean and Kathleen Burgess for making sure that I got this excellent example for the archives. Because as you know, our pews are going to be replaced by some beautiful chairs. Excuse me. This is a little a little memorabilia cabinet that I have down in the archives with just little odds and ends from the cathedral and some from the diocese. There's a plate in the back here you can see with St. Paul's Church at the time. I was told at one time when you were confirmed, you would get one of these plates as a memento. And then I have here, whenever we redid the latest renovation and upgrade of the organ, I was able to obtain one of the old pipes for the cabinet. So I think it's great to have some of these representing the various ministries of St. Paul's. And you can see over here we have, it says a passport, but it was actually an invitation to I think the second gay wedding at St. Paul's. So I have that in there. This plate was, given out, I guess, during the time of Gethin Hughes when he became bishop. And there's various mugs here that were produced over the years. Here's the latest one for St. Paul's when we celebrated our sesquicentennial.
I'd like to make a comment about the plates.
Please.
When I was a child, you could get awards for being doing your memory work, or which was done by class. Each had to do from a child doing learning the Lord's Prayer up on through the different classes as you got older, to memorizing harder and longer things. And then also there was a class award given by the teachers every year. And you usually started out getting a prayer book, and then you could get a hymnal, and then you would get a plate. So that's where the plates came in. I don't believe they were, as far as I know, never were given as a communion gift.
Well, the gentleman who gave it to me indicated he got it when he was confirmed, and maybe he had to go through a few hoops to get that too.
Well, maybe he was
Thank
after
you.
the time that they had stopped giving them as class awards, et cetera.
Well, there's an old addition to the archives. I think Ann snapped that while we were in the archives the other day getting ready for this. So
I did. I took advantage and went ahead and photographed John because I know that his dedication is a big part of where the archives are today. And so if you feel like you belong in the archives, come down and or up, it's going to be up in the future, and join us.
I belong to a group called NEHA, the National Episcopal Historians and Archivists, and they sent this little sticker in a mailing a year or two ago. And keep calm and let the archivist handle it. I guess I put that in there to remind me again to ask anyone who has some odds and ends lying around that have to do with St. Paul's. We always appreciate donations, even though you think we may already have it. We may not. I just received, I think it was 4 different programs from someone, and I added them to our historical file. So we're always grateful for donations, because sometimes we may have it, but it may not be as good a copy as you have. So everything is welcome.
Also, if I may add, I've mentioned this to John, but it occurred to me again recently, we're living through a time of great change at the cathedral, as everyone knows. And once those buildings are changed and altered and disappear, they're gone. So I would make an appeal, if John hasn't already, to the members of the congregation to send us your photographs. I don't know if there's been a concerted effort to record what's been going on with the buildings and the changes that are happening, but we're certainly going to want to have records of that. So I don't know. That's a question for maybe for Dean Penny. I'm not sure.
Well, I think a lot of those things are being recorded digitally, but
Good.
I guess I'm a little old hat. I still like the paper copies. I like to see things for display and so on, but that's just me. But even digital copies are gratefully accepted.
John, this is Ken Tranbarger.
Yeah,
I'll
Ken.
take care of making sure you get a copy of the time-lapse photography that's been going on since they started the whole process. And we've got some other things that I guess we got another one now because the height of the building is basically blocked the original camera. So they can't see, you can't see the top of it anymore. But we'll get you everything that we can.
I'm very grateful for that, Ken. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions at this point? Okay, I have a couple more slides that I think might be of interest, so I'll go ahead and show those to you. Many people don't know where the archives is located. The picture of me earlier is in the office I'm currently maintaining. And that used to be the office of the canon of the ordinary when the bishop was located there. It's a big office. So I have everything down there. It was in two smaller offices that used to contain cathedral's material, and then one office contained the diocesan material. Well, when everything is done with the new building, we're going to move all of that up to the second floor, and that room will be used as part of the new music center. But I did want to show people where a lot of our material is held. This is a picture of the passageway between the 5th Avenue courtyard and the 6th Avenue courtyard. And the 5th Avenue is commonly called the Queen's Courtyard. But if you look down here on the left of the picture, you see a big door. It's a vault, actually. And in there's a small room by about 8 by 12, and it has a lot of shelves on it containing many of the archives of St. Paul's Cathedral. So I wanted to show you where that was located. Many people never knew we had that, so that's where that's located. And I want to give you a better picture of the pulpit that we have. And it's beautiful carved. It has the 4 apostles, and it's carved, "We preach Christ crucified" around the rim. And again, that came from Germany. And I think that may be relocated at some point when the chancel is redone. It'll stay in the chancel, but at a different location. And this is a photograph of the altar that was done by Howard Atwood Church Furnishings. This used to be the side altar before they built the transept in the chapel. Now I have some pictures of St. Paul's on the move. This is in 1948, as I mentioned, when the church was carved up into 7 large pieces and transported up to the State College area to become St. Dunstan's. Quite an undertaking, I imagine. I love the old cars in here too. It's down by the Hotel Churchill. I was wondering if our senior or Canon Verger might know anything about that, or is related to any of the people that owned the Hotel Churchill. You can see they did a lot of work to move this. And there it is. Are there any other questions or comments?
Isn't it now St. Philip's Lemon Grove?
St. Philip's Lemon Grove is where it's currently at. Yeah.
John, I would just like to thank you for all the work that you've done. I've been involved with you basically since you started, and Bill before you even came, to keep records of what we've done with the LLC and the construction of the new decision, and then now the construction of the new building. And you've been a wonderful resource for us to have at the Cathedral, and you're doing a great job with it, and thank you.
Well, thanks for that, Ken. I appreciate that. But I think the archives is best served when it's available for people and to help in its future, which is what it was with the LLC.
This was a wonderful program, John. Thank you and Ann both for your work.
Well, you're so welcome. And I'm hoping that once we're fully open, we can have a physical display where we can show more items. One of the things we have is a collection of crosses that was displayed a number of years ago when Bill Kelch was still here. There's over 100 different crosses. This lady, I can't remember her name offhand, but she was the wife of a bishop, and through the years, she collected crosses from all over the world, and some of them are quite beautiful. So maybe that'll be something we'll put on exhibit at some point. But like I said, we have a lot of treasures in here, and my idea is that people sacrificed quite a bit to get us to where we are today, and I think it's on us to preserve what they did along the way, and I think it helps remind us the sacrifices we all made to get to this point.
I have a question. Does anything need to be at a certain temperature control in order to preserve it?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Stacy?
Does anything need to be in a certain temperature in order to preserve it?
That is a great question. It doesn't need to be into a certain temperature, at least the items we have, but you have to be careful of the humidity. Humidity can destroy things. And the other thing is can be very damaging is exposure to sunlight. And my limited knowledge of archives is that, and I learned a lot of this from Bill Kelch, of course. And the great bane to archivists, I'm told, are paper clips, rubber bands, and tape, because they all have to be removed, otherwise they destroy what they are on. The other thing we consider is newsprint, which is very good to have, but you have to reproduce it on acid-free paper, because the paper that newsprint is printed on is acid-based, and over the years it will disintegrate. Thank you, Stacy.
One more question along the same line. Do you have special archival boxes or acetate that you cover books in so that it doesn't disintegrate?
Yes, we have acid-free folders we use. We have acid-free boxes, and there's other containers we have that are acid-free in order to preserve the items that are put in them. Yes, thank you.
Hi, John.
Whoops.
Oh,
Yes, Jeff.
This is Jeff. I'm at the Cathedral. Just so you know, we're open here at the Cathedral. We've got about 6-7 people here watching here. And I wanted to ask you if you could talk about a little bit about how you catalog things. I know you get research requests occasionally, and you know what if you've got, you know, all the things you've seen, I assume are a part of that. I imagine you have so many papers that would probably boggle my mind. But what does the catalog look like, and what are your categories? And just I'd be interested to hear more about how you what that process is like, and what those files look like. Does that make?
Sure. Thank you for that. Basically, we have 13 different areas that contain different items. One of them has to do with the sacramental registers, and those are in early on in the cataloging process. And Bill Kelch had done most of this material, organizing them and cataloging them, and then putting them in different acid-free boxes that are in the vault that I showed you earlier on the stairway. And I should also mention, and I can show you maybe, well, no, I don't have them here, but about a year ago, maybe a little longer than that, I was in the archives and Dean Penny stopped by, and she noticed that I had a lot of sacramental books from the diocese just on open shelves. And our sacramental registers were in boxes in this vault. So they were safe from fire, but the ones from the diocese were open there on shelves. So she seemed a bit alarmed by that, which she had every right to be. And so I then began a campaign with the diocese to purchase some fire-resistant cabinets. I got one for the cathedral and one for the diocese. So they're now safely behind acid, or not acid, but fire-resistant. They have they're 1 hour resistant, so at least an hour of fire and they would still be okay. So we now have that. I wanted to mention that. Back to the organization though, Jeff, there are, as I recall, 13 different segments to the organization of the archives, and we have room for many more if we need them. And I don't have the breakdown with me right here. I should, but I don't. But they're organized so we can rapidly find them. But one of the things that Ann and I had to do is to go into those different areas and break that down even further. And eventually we would like to have that digitized so that if people are looking for, say, a picture of Easter in 1948, they can do a search and find that. So that's the goal.
John, it's Connie.
Connie.
We have a lot of beautiful things that we use in the sacristy that are quite old, and we want to keep using them, but I was wondering if you would like to come and take pictures and record them as being in the sacristy as part of the archive information.
I think that would be a wonderful idea that Ann and I can do, because we have not only those beautiful sacramental items, we also have many works of art. We should take photographs of those also, if for nothing else, for insurance purposes. So yes, that's a great idea.
You know what I would be interested in too, Connie, and this may not be possible, but just the pictures that you take of how the altar is set up, so that archivally we can see how that's changed over the years. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
I think that would be an interesting thing to have around.
I hadn't thought of that. This last one with all the paper cups would be good for history.
Can you imagine that 15, 20 years from now?
Well, at least they'd be able to date it.
Yeah, we definitely have to put a mask in the next time capsule.
That's for sure.
The KN95. I've got one I'll give you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I'm also very interested in the time capsule. Was the tradition started, one, and two, is it any limited of selecting objects? Have any number limited for keep the time capsule as a record?
I think I'll defer to our dean to see what she might add to that.
I don't know what the history is of time capsules in general, but I know that we have them behind cornerstones for the parish hall and the Great Hall building and for the church itself. And we're planning to do one for the new building.
I would imagine that
And the size, it's going to be like I would think a smallish bank with security deposit box. It's in a couple of books, a newspaper, some kind of medium. It won't be a large, it won't be furniture or anything like that.
Right. And is it a committee to decide whether we selected the time capsule?
That's up to our archivist.
Let's see.
I know that the there was in the cornerstone for both the Great Hall and for the Cathedral, there was a void left in each of the cornerstones to place the capsule. Of course, we know what was put in for the Cathedral. I'm still searching to find what was in the cornerstones for the Great Hall. That could be interesting as well.
I don't want to take a lot of time on it because I think it's almost 10, but I do have a lot of questions maybe in the future I can ask, including the categories of your filing system. I mean, is that based on subjects or is it based on the media? Because you have a 3D and you have 2D objects. And the other thing about your digitalized effort, which is you're probably able to start now instead of wait until the digitalization, because if you have a photos, that's also part of it. And I wonder what's the database or data system you're going to use is, because this is something that is more like is similar to the museum system. You have to have the data, and then you have the system in the database, so you will not lost when people retire or getting older. Not based on the memory. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, and in the space and the storage, or the temperature and the climate control, those are actually significantly important based on different medias as well.
I bet John could give you a personal tour of the archives and tell you all kinds of interesting stuff.
I would certainly love to do that.
Thank you.
I looked at the oldest time capsule in the United States was 1795, and it was laid, where was it? Oh, it's down the Massachusetts State House, and it was laid by Sam Adams and Paul Revere, and it was a brass box.
are there plans?
That's
Are
the
there,
Thank you.
are there plans on displaying any of our archival items in the new building in public areas?
I believe we are going to be displaying like the top of the baptismal font will probably be displayed there. We have a picture that was an architectural picture that was drawn by Froman. We've had that framed and it's ready to be hung. And we also actually,
Oh, that's Winnett.
I'm sorry. We also had all the portraits of our previous rectors and deans reframed, and they're ready to be rehung up in the fireside room. So yeah, we're going to put some things in the new building. We haven't selected them all, but that's a start. Now, Kathleen Burgess, the administrator, mentioned possibly taking some of the blueprints we have and have them reproduced on canvas with enlarged different items, maybe a column top from the colonnade in the courtyard, or a rose window or something like that. So there will probably be many different elements that will feature. Okay, any other questions? Well,
Thank you. Thank you,
all.
John and Anne. This was very special for all of us. And maybe we'll have things to bring you after hearing about the things that you're keeping for us.
That would be wonderful, Connie. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, John and Anne. This was a wonderful presentation, and I look forward to seeing some of these things in person.
You bet.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
John.
We really, really enjoyed this tremendously.
Thank you.
Well, just for next week, we have Jana Reese at the forum. She will be our speaker, and the topic is, what can we learn from Mormons about healing divisions? So I hope everyone has a good Sunday and a good start to the week.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.